Hello everyone, welcome to the Logos Project. This is your host Dom. In this episode, Sam and I talk about sacred music, specifically Gregorian Chant.
Hey guys, it's Sam, your co-host, and also Dom's roommate. Slightly less smart, slightly better looking. They're gonna know as soon as we can afford a video camera. I'm gonna start.
Oh, shut up.
I'm gonna start soliciting dates. Real rap raw. Today we're gonna be talking about my favorite song.
Oh, what's it called?
WAP by Cardi B.
Bro.
I'm just kidding.
No, so wait. Yeah, I just prepared this last minute, so I just hope that... So I learned this like years ago, and I don't remember all of it, obviously. But
maybe we should tell them we're not talking about WAP real quick.
Yeah. We're not talking about WAP. I have no idea what that is. Oh, I was looking at cameras on Amazon, and I have some nice prospects. But...
That's not very distributist of you to buy things off Amazon.
Totally agree. I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding.
By the way, that's not true. But I am a student, which means you're going to buy it for me. I'm just kidding. All right, so Sam, today I wanted to talk about music in general, but Gregorian Chant in specific, to kind of introduce you to what it is.
Let's start from the top. Who's Greg?
Greg is one of the guys here at our young adult group, and he watched Back to the Future one day, and
this is going downhill quick.
Let's go downhill. Okay.
Right.
No, okay. Greg was a pope, Saint Gregory the Great, who made that music official for the Christian liturgical worship. I can hear every gulp that you take.
Well, let me kill it real quick, I guess.
Okay.
Dude, so I read this thing where it's basically, you know how, let's say you're trapped in the desert and you have, like a gallon of water or something?
Yeah.
You're supposed to just drink it, like, pretty much immediately as soon as you become thirsty. And your body will, like,
really
sort it out from there.
So you don't ration it.
Yeah, you're doing more damage by rationing it.
That's good to know for next time I'm
very important.
stranded in a desert.
Well, we just had an economics conversation, and you said that it depends on whether or not water is more valuable
than diamonds.
Like, this is not... I'm not trying to trick you. What's more valuable, Dom?
Honestly, I thought that was your position because you said that the other day, and I agreed with you, but I didn't say that I agreed with you, which is that economics creates value.
It does create value. Yeah, it creates a universal means of value.
That's why I said that.
I mean,
yeah, I was like, I thought you were gonna say, "Oh, you agree with me, Dom."
Well, what I was thinking that's interesting is that it's like, okay, clearly you could get a lot if you were trading, right, in a normal market.
Yeah,
you could get a lot of water for one diamond.
Yeah,
a lot of water.
Yeah,
would be worth not a lot of diamonds.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah,
but ultimately, it's like if we were talking about all of the water, if it was all of the water in existence,
yeah.
versus all of the diamonds in existence,
yeah,
like you'd probably rather have the water. Isn't that interesting?
Huh. Yeah.
It might probably, I mean, definitely.
It's the stuff of life.
Yeah, haven't you ever seen Mad Max?
Yeah, I have. Wait, which one? Anyway, we're off topic. Okay, let's get back to music real quick. So we're going to make 2 episodes tonight. We're going to make one on music real quick, and then we'll make one on, I have no idea. So, first thing is, when you think music, right, it's a human art that really speaks to the soul. It's across cultures, and there's different kinds of it, different forms and different types, and different expressions according to different cultures. I want to take a step back and ask you a question, right? When you think of Christianity, historically speaking, entering onto the stage and then moving forward into Western civilization, what great 3 traditions does it incorporate? It's not a trick question, but it is a question. It's trivia, so let's see if you get it right.
Wait, 3 traditions?
The 3 great traditional civilizations, the 3 great traditions, like cultural traditions, that it takes into itself and moves forward. What's the obvious first one? I'll put it that way.
Dude, none of this seems obvious to me. I don't know.
Oh, I'm
I don't know
sorry.
if it's the way you're asking the question, but I'm like,
Where did Christianity come from?
like the civilization?
Christianity, the religion. Let's put it that way.
Christ.
Yeah, okay, where did Christ come
Yeah,
from?
like, what are you talking? Heaven. What do you?
Christianity came from Judaism, Sam.
Oh yeah,
That's,
okay,
that's,
yeah.
that's
That is
nothing more complicated than that.
So
Okay,
clearly, I knew that. But
I know. I can
walking
see
me on. Yeah, I had no idea what you were talking about.
that. I could see how that could go in so many different directions. Okay. So now that you know that I'm talking about people groups, who is the next great protagonist in the New Testament besides Jesus when it comes to the spread of Christianity?
Paul.
Bingo. What was Paul? Obviously Jewish. We know that.
No, Roman.
Roman. Yeah.
See, I know answers. You just gotta feed me a little bit.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
No, I'm just kidding.
But we obviously know that Christianity comes from Judaism because of Jesus, and we know that Paul furthered that expansion of the Christian worldview. I'm going to use those terms loosely, and so Paul was obviously Jewish, but what else was he?
Roman.
That's right, and he spread the gospel throughout what?
Rome. The Roman Empire. I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here we have the Roman tradition being subsumed and transformed into the Christian Empire, Christendom. That's why it was called at a certain point in time the Holy Roman Empire. So we've covered Rome, we covered the Jews, and what is the third cultural influence? Not influence, but the third cultural tradition that was subsumed into Christianity that spread throughout the West.
So you're talking like groups, like people groups?
Yeah, that's right.
Greeks.
The Greeks, yeah. So we see this, for example, in Justin Martyr, who was a Platonist philosopher who converted to Christianity and then claimed that Christianity was the true philosophy. You see this in his writings from the 2nd century. Then you see this in Origen, who could be described as somewhat of a Neoplatonist. You obviously see it massively in St. Augustine.
Why do they describe him as a Neoplatonist?
Neoplatonism is a type of philosophy that began with Plotinus and continued for a few centuries. It's not Plato per se, but it's like a kind of subsequent Platonism that tries to marry Plato and Aristotle, but also that starts taking those principles from those two Greek philosophers and applying them in different ways. And it actually gets really interesting. They have like all these different understandings of the one, which is like the source of all existence. And then after that, they have reason, which is like a subsistent hypostasis that comes from the one, but it's inferior because it proceeds from the one. So kind of like the Trinity, but it's different because we're talking about an inferior principle that proceeds from the one, which is reason.
Is that why they call it Neoplatonism? Because he's the one, Neo? I was going to make that joke, and then you said Trinity, and I was like, oh, man. Maybe we are. No, I'm just kidding. I actually have not seen those movies yet.
Yeah, we'll have to do an episode on them.
Or like a movie night.
First, obviously. But, yeah, Matrix 2 and Matrix 3, they were trash compared to Matrix 1. But as a trilogy, there's a good commentary we can give on them because they have different aspects which are really profound.
Sounds like a good excuse watching movies.
Totally
All right,
agree.
we can continue.
No, totally agree. And then the third principle in Neoplatonism was soul, which kind of encapsulates the world. And so it's kind of a mixture between panentheism and some kind of subordinate hypostatic structure. It's not really for the purpose of this show, but it's really interesting stuff. The point being is that the early Christians took this tradition and they got rid of the stuff that was not congruent with the Jewish revelation. And they used the principles, the reasonable principles from Greek philosophy to argue for how Christianity makes the most sense out of all the philosophies. And basically they used Greek philosophy as a tool for apologetics, if that makes sense.
That's really interesting. Also, just absolutely fascinating the conclusions that like ancient Greek philosophers were able to come to without Christianity.
That's a whole different topic. That's
and so
absolutely
to see where those things kind of converge is just absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, dude, Plato is so mind-boggling. We'll have to talk about Plato a lot more. We keep, podcasters always say that. We'll have to do an episode on this. Do an episode. Yeah. Okay. So the point of all that is to say that basically when we're talking about Christianity, we're talking about Judaism, Rome, and Greece kind of coming together in history, in time, and spreading in a very dynamic and explosive way from the first century to create Western civilization. So when we're talking about culture, music, and art is a huge and important theme because it speaks about the very soul of that culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so the point of this episode is to talk about what was the music of Christianity. And the conclusion, of course, is going to be, well, what three elements do you think it will have? It's going to have a Jewish element, a Roman element, and a Greek element. So that's the whole point. So I want to show you something. First thing I want to show you is this piece here of music. It's basically the Gradual from the Mass of St. John the Baptist. I wish I could remember what... I think it'll say right here what year it's from. Yeah, it's from 1050. So the 11th century. Okay? So it's a piece of music that was sung during the Mass of St. John the Baptist's death. Like to commemorate his death. It was his feast day. Ut queant...
Don't accidentally summon something.
Let's see. But the point being here, it goes, ut queant laxis resonare fibris mira gestorum famuli tuorum solve polluti labii reatum sancte Ioannes. So if you notice, so you can see, obviously the audience can't see this, but I'll try to describe it for them. If you notice here, it starts with this note on top of ut, and then it goes up, and then you go resonare, then mira, then famuli, solve, labii, and sancte Ioannes. So ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la. And then sancte Ioannes. Si.
A doe, a deer, a female deer.
So if the audience is listening to this episode, you can Google ut queant laxis.
And nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, they are. There's some nerds listening.
Can you add a link or something to the bottom?
I will, yeah. So I'll add a link to this in the show notes. And you'll see the note above the ut is the do. So do actually used to be called ut. They changed to do.
Yeah, makes sense. The song would be a lot weirder. An oot, a deer, a female deer.
It's like, what kind of deer is that? And then resonare, so the re here is going to be re, and then mi, fa, sol, la, and then si. Obviously,
so what comes from?
In English, we say T.
Yeah.
But that's just, it's, I don't know why it changed. It's like a semantic, not semantic, it's a linguistic evolution, but it used to be C. It still is C in Romance languages. Okay, so what was your question?
So did this come prior to the whole, I literally, this, is it scales? I literally don't even know what that, why I know that song. Yeah, let's get into it. So what I'm saying here is that this is the origins of the words do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So what are those words? Because okay, so it's Latin for so that... No, you don't have to read. What I'm saying is, I don't understand. Do, re, mi, yeah, I get all that, but what is that? Is it just, scales? Okay, so next step. Reeling it back in here, bud. Okay, so next step. When you talk about intonation, so think about it this way. So you have do, re, mi. You're going one step, second step, third step. You're going up. Right? So between each note, you have what we call a full step. You can quantify it mathematically, right? It's just a step upward. There's a distance between each note. Make sense? Yep. So do to do is 8, right? So do, 1, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's 8. Okay, yeah, by that. Right? Now, there's not a full step between each note. There's not a full step between each note? No. So do to re is a full step. Re to mi is a full step. Oh, okay. Mi to fa. But there's stuff in between? Mi to fa is a half step. That's impossible. What? I'm confused.
It's so confusing. Why is this so confusing?
No, so listen to it.
Okay.
Do, re, mi, fa. Instead of do, re, mi, fa. See how it's fa is higher, fa is a little lower? It's a half step. So do, re is a full step. Do, re is a half step. So what I'm saying is that in the diatonic scale, you have 8 notes, which is called an octave, and they're all separated by a full step except between the mi and the fa and the ti and the do. That's all.
Fair enough. There's no method for that. There's no reason. It's just the way it is.
There is a reason. It's mathematical.
You can tell by the way it is.
All right, so we get we get this scale from the Greeks. They came up with this.
They just made it up out of thin air. Guarantee that's what happened.
They discovered the mathematical.
Discovered. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll try to make this quick. So the point being is that you have through math, they discovered that if you have this kind of octave scale from do to do, which they didn't call it do, of course, because that happened in the 11th century with the monks. But they discovered that if you look at this scale, you can combine it in many different ways and harmonize and convey certain kind of feelings and emotions and even certain proportions that work and are pleasing to the ear. So there's an aesthetic, there's a beauty that's pleasing, not just to the ear but also to reason, right? Harmony is not just pleasing to the ear, it is, but it's pleasing to the ear and also to reason because there's an actual intrinsic proportionality in harmony that's mathematically, you can determine it mathematically.
Yeah, and it has to be, otherwise it wouldn't be universal. It would be
relative. It actually wouldn't sound pleasing to the ear if it was not proportionate mathematically. Isn't that fascinating?
Can you explain why some people like Cardi B and some people don't? It should be objective.
I can explain why no one should like Cardi B.
Objectively.
I'm just kidding. So anyway, so that's that. So kind of introduction to where the scale comes from the Greeks. Now, the Greeks had this 8 note scale, but then they had different modes where, because you can move that scale, if you keep the proportionality, you can move that scale anywhere. So I can go do, re, mi, or I can go do, re, mi. That's the same distance between each note, but a different place,
shifted,
different pitch.
Yeah.
So the point being is that you can create a melody and determine what notes in that scale is going to be the note upon which the melody will begin and end, and also which notes around which the melody will center. And the changing that will change the mode of the song you sing. And there's 8 modes. So all this is from the Greeks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's how they created music. Not created, they discovered music, because it's a mathematical truth that you discover and that you use to create art.
That's actually fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, the specifics are a little weird, but...
Anyway, in today's world, we use the chromatic scale. We'll get into that a little more when we talk about rhythm. So that's just that. Okay, so that's the Greeks. Now, when it comes to the Jews, what kind of... So when you talk about music, you talk about 3 main things. You talk about, first of all...
Wait, beats? You need a producer? No, I'm just kidding. Right, so...
You need mics, right?
Yeah.
The Greeks needed mics. No, so obviously you're going to need lyrics.
Yep.
You're going to need...
a tempo.
So rhythm.
Is that one of them?
Rhythm.
Okay.
So lyrics, rhythm. What's the third thing you need, obviously?
Sound.
Yeah, so melody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Even
lyrics... lyrics, melody, and rhythm. Those are the 3 components, right? So, I'll tell you what, the Jews gave us the lyrics. So
you were going to say that, yeah.
You did? Okay,
Yeah.
so what are the lyrics?
Psalms.
Yes, predominantly.
Yeah.
But the entire scriptures, really,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we get the lyrics from the Jews. Where do we get the rhythm and the melody? We kind of talked about it.
Hillsong United.
Exactly.
It's Protestant love for you. It came from the Greeks.
Yes. And so finally, what do the Romans give us? What is Gregorian chant sung in? What language?
Oh, Latin.
Latin. Now, arguably, Latin is the most beautiful language to have ever existed in the history of human culture. Now, there's a good case to be made for it because there's a sense in which it became solidified and was codified in a certain sense where it stopped evolving. So that's a whole different topic.
Does that make it better? Is that your argument?
No, it was so it developed, but then it was also worked on, and then it was solidified, and then it was prevented from developing by being used in specific official situations, like the liturgy.
Mm.
So there's a lot more to it. And anyway, the point being is that Latin has been seen in history as one of the most beautiful languages because there's what are the Romans known for historically when it comes to the governance of cities and empires?
Power.
Yeah,
Wait,
I'm trying to make you say something, but it's not obvious. So
Okay, wait. I want to guess.
okay.
Wait.
So
the
Rome is
governance-
obviously known for the empire. Now, what holds an empire together?
a
You're right about power,
like
but
a hierarchy.
Yeah, so hierarchy. So what comes with hierarchy?
Titles, responsibility. Like,
Yeah,
I want to use the word power again.
but
that's
you're
clearly-
right. So think about power, but think of governance. What are the implications of governance? What is instantiated?
Law.
Bingo.
Got him.
Law. Law is structure and order.
Yeah, that makes
Right?
sense actually.
That's
yeah.
Roman. They're known for their roads. They're known for their empirical structure.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a sense in which Latin has an intrinsic structure to it that is kind of unique. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see how the music of Christianity incorporates these three great traditions. Isn't that beautiful? And so, I mean, do you think there is a more theologically rich or a more theologically true and authentically, when something is authentically true at the deepest level, it's the most beautiful?
Yep.
Do you think there's anything that's higher than sacred scripture when it comes to lyrics, when it comes to words?
No. Yeah.
No,
Hard to argue with even a Protestant.
right?
More so a Protestant. Really backed me into a corner on that one. I'm trying
Yeah.
to disagree with you about something.
Now, when it comes to math, right? When you think of proportionality, logic,
Mm-hmm.
right? What great civilization first comes to mind?
Rome.
I misled you on that one.
Greece.
Greece.
Yeah, I'm messing
Rome
with
is law.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh, you. I thought you were serious. Okay. No. So yeah. So Greece is like philosophy, math, beauty.
Yep.
Right. Plato talks about proportion, the forms, and all that kind of stuff, and immutability. So, but then what is the greatest empire that had the greatest reach? I mean, Alexander is not. I think
The
Rome is.
greatest ancient. Oh, I thought you were gonna make an argument for the United States of America.
Oh no.
We're headed downhill quick. Rome's the answer, Dom.
Yeah. So you see how like there's a kind of epitome, a historical kind of peak in these three great traditions,
Yeah, absolutely.
and all three come together to form the music of Christianity. And as Balthazar said, Christianity is a form which gives creation its authenticity. So creation really is only truly ever understood through the lens of Christianity because that's its most authentic understanding. Creation is fallen and redeemed, and the history of creation is the history of salvation. And if you step out of that understanding, you can get things right, but you're not understanding the world as authentically as it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the most authentic way of understanding the world takes for its culture these three historical epitomes and makes it its music. All right, so now let's look at it. All right, we're gonna skip all the mode stuff and okay. We covered all that. All right, a few more things I want to tell you. So if you, we'll look at a piece of music, right? But I want to tell you a few things. Let me read you something from good old Dom Sonol, who was Sunol. He was a Benedictine monk.
I actually thought you were about to quote yourself.
So Dom is actually a derivative from the Latin Dominus, which means sir. That's why Benedictine monks have before their name Dom. It means sir.
How come the Dominican monks don't do that?
So Dominican, it comes from Dominicanis, which is, or it means
several sirs.
it means dogs of the Lord.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Yo, that's rad. Yo, that is the hardest thing I've ever heard.
because they see themselves. So their symbol, their coat of arms, so to speak, is a dog running with a torch in his mouth that's lit. The idea is that they're going to set ablaze the entire world with the gospel, the light of Christ, and they run at the service of the Lord. So they're the dogs of the Lord.
That's super cool. Not gonna lie, that's awesome.
So, yeah, so that would be not Domne, but it would be Dominus, which is Lord, right? So Dominus is sir, Dominus is Lord. So they have the same root. You could say one evolved from the other, but anyway. Okay, so in every syllable of her liturgy, the church follows the scriptures in teaching by types and figures, and the chant echoes the liturgical formulas in their scorn for the superficial and the obvious. This is one reason why plain song, that is to say Gregorian chant, it's also called plain song, does not appeal to the casual listener on a first hearing. One must possess the key to the liturgical mood, as it were, and penetrate below the surface by some preliminary liturgical training before the old melodies will consent to yield up the secret of their charm. You like that?
What I heard is like, if you don't like it, it's because you don't really understand.
That's
you sip on your like mocha chai, freaking.
Well, well, here's the thing though.
With your man bun.
How many people do you think, when they go to the liturgy and hear the Gregorian chant, first of all, how many times is it sung properly? We'll talk about that later. Second of all, let's say it is sung properly.
Really, we'll just talk about that later.
How many times do you think the people listening or hearing know what I just told you?
I'm going to go with very few. Probably none.
Now that you know that, let's say you understood Latin, right? And you heard the chant. What you would hear is a proportionate melody with a specific, we'll talk about rhythm in just a bit, with the words from the scriptures that you understand in a beautiful structured language. You see how all that beauty is now somewhat available to you through that information I gave you. You see, it's like I'm giving you a key.
Oh, is that what you meant by the key? Or no?
Where I said that?
The key to the liturgical
Yeah,
mood.
so one must possess the key to the liturgical mood. So the more you find out, the more we talk about this. And the more, for example, if we'll pick a piece and I'll tell you what the Latin means, and then I'll show you, and then you're like, oh. And so unfortunately, it's because people don't know what they're listening to. That it says here, it says in the quote, right?
Does that always sound like that?
What? Oh yeah.
Probably shouldn't have left that open.
So, and it says here, this is one reason why plain song does not appeal to the casual listener on a first hearing. Because he doesn't know what the heck's going on. But the more we delve into it, the more we talk about it, the more we understand what's going on, it unlocks.
Yep.
And then you see the beauty. So at the end of the day, what we need is for people not just to sing Gregorian chants during liturgical service, but to understand what they're singing and how it works. Then people will not just enjoy it, but be transformed by it. So that's the key. That's all I wanted to say for that. So that's what we're doing here in this episode. Sorry if it's just me rambling and you listening, but
No. I'm big fan of music.
Cool. And so, but also, so we won't do this today, but modern music notation that you see in Beethoven, Mozart, and that comes from Gregorian. It's directly linked to Gregorian chant. Historically, it develops out of it.
Do you just listen to Gregorian chant when you're just like in the shower or whatever?
Seriously, not in the shower. No,
I like getting in the shower. I'm like, Alexa, play some Tyler Childers. The top of my lungs.
So Gregorian chant is it's so beautiful and so sacred that you have to find a right place and time to listen to it, but it's not meant to be merely listened to. So yeah, that's a different topic. It's a good question, and we can talk about it. Let me just continue here real quick. To answer it quickly is that you can listen to it, but it's even better to sing it, because it is a prayer, and you don't really listen to prayer unless you're in the church and it's being sung by the choir and you unite your intentions to the choir. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see how that's different.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but it doesn't mean you can't listen to it because it is beautiful, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. It's just it's better to sing it. Augustine says to sing is to pray twice. There's like an element that's
Oh, you get double
greater.
points. Yeah. I know how you Catholics are about points.
So Augustine. I know you're joking,
I know.
but
Okay.
Augustine is actually known for being the doctor of grace, the champion of anti-Pelagianism. Pelagianism is the idea that you can earn your salvation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why Protestants love Saint Augustine.
Oh, nice.
So anyway, just adding that.
In that case, I love Saint Augustine.
All right. Okay. So obviously we could say more about that, but we won't. Okay. So I just wanted to add a few more things to wrap up this episode. I'm gonna skip this. So I want to talk about rhythm real quick, if that's cool with you. So first thing I want to do, Sam, is give you a little observation about the relationship between the lyrics and the music. So the lyrics are saying something specific. For example, today a child is born. That's from the Mass of Christmas, right? And so what the scriptures are saying, this is the words of the angel to the shepherds in Luke's gospel. They're saying something has taken place and a child has been born. But this is at the very center of the biblical narrative, the thematical climax of the entire purpose of the Bible. And it climaxes with a baby has been born, right? Obviously the climax is the death and resurrection, but like Jesus is the climax.
Mm-hmm.
And so a child is born today. So in that phrase, the fact that it's today, God, who is eternal, is born. So time and eternity are at play. So a very dynamic moment in history. And then birth is associated with life and blessing.
And we're talking about a specific piece of music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Birth
What's
is
it called?
puer natus est. Odie puer natus est. Today a child is born.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Cleverly named.
So the pieces of music don't have titles. The
Mhm.
titles are the beginning of the piece.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so but there's thousands of pieces of Gregorian chant. So we'll get into all that. But
Is that solidified, or are people still writing Gregorian chant?
it's a very good question. No one is currently writing Gregorian chant officially. Anyone could write it, I guess. And because what the church is doing is she's using these chants from the past that have proven their worth through time. But the church has also called for people to compose more. And how
Oh,
that
really?
Yeah, and how that works in the modern world, that's a topic of its own. That would be really fascinating to think about together.
Yeah. WAP part 2.
Or 4. Just kidding. So the point being, is that those words, "Today a child is born," right, hold a very attention in them. First of all, blessing is connected with life and birth in the biblical covenantal theme
Mm-hmm.
of the Bible, right? Barrenness versus fertility is connected with curse and blessing.
Mm-hmm.
So life itself, life itself is born. So when Adam sees Eve, right, you have this element of joy, and when and the curse is that she bears children in grief and sorrow and pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that curse is being undone in the birth of Jesus, which is why Catholics believe that Jesus was born when Jesus was born, Mary didn't have birth pangs. Although that's not a doctrine, it is a belief.
I'm just kidding.
So there's a connection there. But the point being is that this phrase is filled with joy, with a mystery where eternity and time come together, and life. So it's vibrant. But it's not like Caesar entering Rome triumphantly after vanquishing his conquerors, but it's a little babe being born in a grotto. You see that? So think of all those spiritual elements from the lyrics taken from the scriptures, and then you look at the melody in the piece of chant, and you realize that they're conveying those sentiments. The melody is of those words. So this is where another quote here says, "One could never say that the words had been, quote, set to music. The music springs up out of the words themselves, in which it lay latent and contained in embryo."
Who said that?
This is from...
Quoting yourself again?
No, this is from a textbook of Gregorian Chant according to the Solemn Method.
Did you read that whole book?
I think I did. It's not long. It's not long.
Oh, okay. You're just like, I'm just going to randomly pick up a textbook about Gregorian Chant.
Well, also, I had to study this in the monastery. So,
oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
But this one we didn't read in the monastery. We had a different program. This one's not long. I might not have finished it. I don't remember, but it's not a long one. It's really, really helpful. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about that. Finally, one more thing, just a few details, okay? So in modern music, you have notes. So rhythm is divisible. Let me read this to you real quick. Okay, in modern music, Sam, the Renaissance onward, that is, rhythm is a divisible unit related to time and emphasis.
Yeah.
Right?
About that.
Yeah. In ancient music, so Greece, Rome, and Christendom, right? Rhythm is an indivisible unit that is multiplied twice or thrice in order to bring order based on rises and falls. So it has nothing to do with time or emphasis. It's
just repeatability.
Yeah, it's literally mathematical and philosophical. It's based on reason, but it's not based on like divisible emphases that you can separate with time.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, it's based on rises and falls of a multipliable unit that you can multiply by 2 or by 3. So there's a shift. It's from a unit, an indivisible oneness, a kind of simplicity that modern music doesn't have. So there's a difference there. It's just an observation. It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But what that means is that it's a fundamental misunderstanding to treat Gregorian chant simply as a modern notation method that happens to have 4 lines instead of 6. And to treat it simply as a melody with modern conceptions of rhythm and expression is a mistake. And people do this all the time at liturgy. See what I'm saying?
I'm like, they're not even on beat.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So finally, the last thing I want to say is this. Go ahead. Tell me.
Wait, so a bunch of thoughts popped up.
Go ahead. Do it.
All right. So first of all, right. So I notice when I'm like reading something that's purely a story, typically, right? You're able to pick out like those themes that kind of match, what do you say, like stories of the Bible, or like that whole that path of, you know, birth and redemption, and and I feel like those things ring more true and kind of speak to your heart on like a spiritual level, right?
Yeah.
So do you feel like if we were to kind of attempt to write music or turn modern music, basically incorporate some of these themes, where it's like instead of just throwing, you know, some lyrics on a beat, you're like letting the way you put it was beautiful. Let the lyrics,
let the melody come from the words.
Come from the words. Yeah. You think we were to kind of like flip things back like that, like those things would speak to us more, or we'd be able to, I don't know, we'd get more out of it? Because right, ultimately the theme you started with is, hey, this is why I believe this mode of music is truth, right? Because there's mathematical truth, there's theological truth, right?
This is not necessarily a criticism of modern music. It's merely an observation of a difference. And so it's not like one is more true and one is less true. It's that they're just different categories altogether. So sacred music is going to be much more spiritual, much more lofty, sacred, and different and otherworldly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but understanding all that goes into it as we talk about it together provides you with the key to unlock its mysteries. And so it takes a certain progression, a certain growth and maturity to come to the realization and to the sight of the beauty therein. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but modern music, it's much more directed, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but it's much more directed to more instantaneous feelings and everyday emotions and endeavors in your day-to-day life. So it's much less difficult it's less challenging. It's much more instantaneous and kind of like I can't think of a good example, but
junk food.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
I see what you're saying.
So yeah, so it's a different category altogether, right? Which is why the Second Vatican Council explains for Catholic listeners, right, that the Gregorian chant has pride of place in the liturgy. So a better understanding of Gregorian chant, I think.
What does that mean? Pride of place?
It's the music par excellence that ought to be used in the liturgy.
Okay.
Yeah. So more there, of course, but okay. So that's that. So, but to answer your question, because I think what you're tapping into is how can we mature culturally and be more rich and beautiful culturally with our music.
Well, so I don't know that's a fair thing to say based on what the argument you're making is that they're categorically different.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like to take maybe these themes and incorporate them into modern music is like categorically maybe not the right way to go.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think there has to be different dimensions, different categories, like levels of sacredness, maybe, and that we could probably do with a little more. We could devulgarize our modern. Probably we could.
Well,
definitely,
that's absolutely true. I'm not trying to.
No, of course, I'm pretty sure we agree. We could devulgarize our modern music. We could understand the difference between music that is more like meant for daily enjoyment, or when groups come together as friends and pull out the guitar and sing together, versus that music which is much more lofty and sacred and meant to be prayer. Really, music that's and it doesn't mean people can't come together and pray with a guitar. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's a level, there's a categorical difference here.
Yeah, so you have like
it's like the Holy of Holies versus the outer court.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say liturgical music versus shower music.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right. This is great.
So another thing I was just thinking, literally as we're talking, I prepared for this zero. We didn't even know we were gonna do this until a little bit ago.
This is true.
As I absolved myself of my sins of not preparing. When do you think dance started to begin to be incorporated with music? And I would argue that has huge implications as far as timing goes, right? So especially if we're like and it could be just cultural differences, right? I mean, you look at Native Americans, I'm sure they didn't have like a liturgical, or they didn't have like liturgical words maybe that they started with and then added a melody to it later. It was like they had a drum, they had a beat, and then like I'm sure eventually.
If you're talking whether the words or the music came first for other cultures, I mean, I don't really know. I don't think it matters because, I mean, they definitely had liturgical rituals. And definitely
absolutely. Yeah. I guess the argument I'm making is that maybe with the beat coming first or the melody coming first, right, put the emphasis in a different way from different cultures, and maybe that's kind of the birthplace of modern-day music.
No.
I'm basing that off nothing.
Oh, okay. I mean, well, first of all, I'd say I don't think we really know if the beat came first. I mean, we know we don't really know. Someone could have came up with a little melody and said, "Oh, let me put a beat to that," and then they started dancing. I don't know, or someone had a beat and like, "Oh, let me sing to that." So, I mean, we don't really know. But I think modern music, I mean, clearly comes from Gregorian chant. Modern profane. I'm not using profane in a derogatory fashion. I'm using profane as opposed to sacred, right? It doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's not sacred music.
Are you basing that off of the fact that the underlying, I guess,
well, I mean, modern music,
octaves and everything are put together is...
Yeah, so like the modern music notation system evolved from Gregorian chant. Ultimately, music comes from the Greeks, at least the one that we have in Western civilization. All music. The way we note it down, its form, as it's the music notation, the rhythm methods we use, all that, ultimately its source is in Greek scales, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is like beyond the realms of this, and we're definitely getting off topic.
Hey,
but I guess the point I'm saying is other cultures could have emphasized like the movement and the timing, which I think is a big piece of music, and maybe that was incorporated into like basically what became modern day music. Because now there are ways of basically writing down like dances. There's like a code for how to write. Okay, you do a promenade here, and like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that clearly came way after, like, dancing did.
I mean, if you look at, that's the thing. It's not like monolithic. I mean, if you look at Gregorian chant itself, it's not just Roman, Greek, and Jewish. There's also Gallican influences later on.
Mm-hmm.
So the Gauls who became the French, right, by being conquered by the Franks. So you see like influences from these other tribes in the chant itself. So I mean, I'm kind of giving broad strokes here,
Yeah.
but there are Gallican influences in Gregorian chant, and you can tell the difference, the evolution, right? And so we're talking about a kind of eclectic evolution of music, and so there are outside influences, and some were kept, some were taken out, some developed in certain ways, others in other ways, etc. Yeah, so it's hard to pin down. It's like language. It comes from a lot of different places, but you can see the major thematic movements, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So I wanted to add, unless you want to talk more about this, I wanted to add something else about.
I just want to dance.
What was that song? Everybody, no.
Are you talking about the Macklemore song?
How's it go?
Oh, I forget. He's like, oh, he just wants to dance.
Yeah, that
Like,
one.
something like
That's
that.
what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I can't remember how it goes. Real talk.
Yeah. Anyway, that's too bad. That would have been funny. Okay, so last thing I want to say is this: in modern music, right, you have a vestige of this, but you have notes that are all units that are combined together. Now, sometimes you'll see a note that has a line that connects both of them. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that usually means that they're both half beats instead of full beats. So you have one note, the dot, and then the vertical line, and then next to it another note, the dot and the vertical line. But sometimes you'll have two notes next to each other where the vertical line is connected by a horizontal line at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's kind of a vestige of what you have in ancient music, because in modern music we're talking about the divisibility of the rhythm. The rhythm can be divisible. Like, so 1, 2 could be 1, 2, 3. Or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? It's divisible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the point being here is that what the music in Gregorian chant does is it takes the syllables of the words in the lyrics, and it assigns to those syllables a group of notes. So I'll give you an example right here. So note it. Can you see this right here?
Mm-hmm.
It says signum magnum, which means a great sign. This is the beginning of chapter 12 of Revelation.
I bet I know the name of this song.
What is it?
A Great Sign.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Or seventh introit. Anyway, I'm just kidding. That's okay. So
That crushed me.
all right. So
I'm confused now.
don't worry about it. Okay. Signum magnum apparuit in cielo. So signum obviously sounds like sign.
Mm-hmm.
Magnum, like Magnus or magnifying glass or something that is magnified, is great. So great sign. Apparuit, to appear. So appeared. In cielo. Have you heard like the word celestial?
Mm-hmm.
Heaven. So a great sign appeared in heaven. So there's something majestic about this. And so it goes, Signum magnum apparuit in cielo. So obviously I didn't drink water or clear my throat before this episode, but and I haven't sung in a while. But the idea here is that you have a great sign appeared in heaven. So it's kind of exaggerating that, but the idea here is that the sign is great. So we haven't gotten to like accentuation in the Latin. So there's so much to this, as you can tell, right?
Sure, yeah.
So in the Latin, each word has a tonic accent, which means it's the center of the word, and it's an accentuation on the central syllable, central vowel. So signum, the E is the tonic accent. Signum. Magnum, the magnum is the tonic accent. And both of those words have two syllables, signum, magnum. But some words like apparuit, so after the tonic you have two syllables, so apparuit. So the idea being here is that when it comes to the rhythm of the melody, it's not always, but usually going to be based on the syllables, right? Because the melody, the rhythm is either multipliable by 2 or by 3. And every Latin word can be divided by 2 or by 3 according to the syllables because of the tonic accent. Okay, it's a lot of information.
Yeah. So
You see what I'm saying?
you had me pretty lost until the second there.
Yeah.
So is it because the language and like this form of music developed together, or is it because one was developed to kind of cater to the other one? Well, clearly language came first.
The music came second, but it basically became so. Like when you speak a language, for example, you've heard someone say Italian is so melodious. I'm just kidding. Or like German is so like authoritarian.
Arrivederci.
Yeah, so like German is so like authoritarian, like
Yeah.
Achtung, ich liebe dich, which means I love you. It sounds like it's saying I hate you.
Du hast mich.
No, honestly, so German gets a bad rap. I think it's absolutely beautiful language. So for the record, I want to say that. But anyway, so languages have certain elements to them that are musical. I mean, don't get me started on Tolkien's Elvish languages. But anyway, so when it comes to Latin, hear this. Signum magnum apparuit in cielo, muliera micta, sole et luna superibus eius. You hear it's a little bit melodious. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Signum magnum apparuit in cielo, muliera micta, sole et luna superibus eius. There's like this flow, this ebbing and flowing, this up and down, right? So what did the monks do? They said it slower and emphasized the ups and emphasized the downs, taking into account the meaning of the word. And what happened? The Greek mathematical octave was used and incorporated, and so they were basically just speaking the language, but by drawing out its already present internal dynamism, an affinity between the meaning, the structure of the language, and the melody, and the specific indivisible rhythm that's multiplied. Magnum, when you think magnum, you think great.
Great.
Yeah, so it's magnum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's nice.
So, what they do is they'll take several notes and put them above a syllable, and they'll call that group of notes a neum.
A neum?
Yeah, Neum. Now this is where it gets cool, because when you speak, what comes out of your lungs?
Air.
Yeah.
Oh, neum.
breath.
I see what you did there.
So
Like pneumatic.
yeah,
Or
yeah, but it gets even better. So
the spirit. Is what you're gonna say?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So listen to this. Wait, is there an E at the end of neum? There might be. I don't know. It doesn't matter. So, okay. In Gregorian Chant, Sam, a group of notes, as I told you, is called a neum. This is the Greek word for breath, and its Hebrew equivalent is ruach. Now, ruach was used in the Hebrew scriptures to mean wind, breath, and or spirit, as we've talked about before together earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ruach is what Yahweh breathed into the clay when he created Adam in Genesis 2. In the biblical imagination, you'll see this in the Psalms, right? Our throats, nephesh in Hebrew, are the recipients of our life, of our breath, right? And therefore, nephesh comes to mean the entire living and breathing human being. In other words, the soul. So this is why David says in the Psalms, my nephesh pants or thirsts after you, O Lord. Yeah. Now
That's really clever.
Now listen to this. The Holy Spirit is described as the Ruach of Yahweh, right? So in Trinitarian theology, the Holy Spirit proceeds both from the Father and the Son in Catholic Trinitarian theology as a sigh of mutual love. So the Spirit is a sigh breath that spirates, is the language we use in theology. It emanates from the Father and the Son. That's a tricky word. I don't want to commit heresy here. And it's a sigh of love. So when we sing, right, our syllables are filled with air, and that group of notes above the syllable is called a neum. It's called a breath. And that breath is a sigh of love, of prayer to the Trinity in response to the reception of grace, which the reception of the Holy Spirit in us, of God's breath. So there's an exchange of love, sighing between God and us, which is a participation in the Trinitarian life itself, because the Spirit is the sigh of love between the Father and the Son. So this is what Gregorian chant is. It's our way of praying it's a love song to God, but it's deeply spiritual and contemplative, because it's beyond anything you can experience. It introduces you into a whole different world, which is the world of these gorgeous and beautiful mysteries which the words of Scripture give us through the means of this incredibly structured language put to a philosophical and mathematical, appealing to reason structure of melody, but also it's more than that. That's like the elements, but all put together, you kind of get, when you get the whole together, it's something more than the parts, which is the prayer of the church.
Mm-hmm.
So,
dude, that was fascinating. I just want to say, go ahead. Go ahead and say what you was going to say.
So all I want to say is that there's so much more on this topic that we haven't been able to talk to, but it's just maybe the audience will maybe this will provide the audience with a little insight, a little appetizer into the immense richness of the music of Christian culture that has been kind of forgotten and relegated to the past.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. Music is awesome. We both love music, right?
Yeah, big fan.
Right. Now, what is the greatest culture, the greatest thing in the world, right? The church, right? The church is the world, is the world being redeemed. So one of the greatest expressions of culture, of creation, right, is the song of thanksgiving that we give back to the one who gave us being. Music is the expression of culture in a certain sense. So the greatest culture, its music, is this right here. And we've forgotten about it. We've forgotten its riches. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this should give the audience a little taste into maybe let's explore this again. And maybe stay tuned for a next episode and subscribe to the Logos Project. And support us on Patreon. Just kidding.
Struggling college student. Right.
All right. Again, so much to say. I want to walk you through one of the hymns, but I think this is good enough for an episode.
Can you tack one on to the end of the episode or something like that?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
I always listen when I'm driving, so.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm not in the shower, it should be good.
Yeah. I have all the CDs for the entire liturgical year. Problem is,
Such a nerd.
if I put that on the audio recording, can I get in trouble
probably.
for that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll sort that one out logistically later.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, Sam, thank you for listening to me talk about the beauty of Gregorian chant. Hopefully the audience enjoyed this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for making that pizza to bribe me to come up here. So.
You want to plug the show and ask people to leave a review?
Is that what you just did?
Yeah, but let's do it again. I'm just kidding.
Leave a review unless you have nothing nice to say, at which point it's probably better if you don't say anything.
Exactly.
Or listen to another episode. I'm sure you'll like that one better.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.